Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of my 13 Years Haunted series. Now to quickly recap you on what happened on episode 1, following the 2018 Noisy Stairs update that I gave you, the house had just gotten so active so quick, and it was just constant up and down the stairs, banging on doors, just generally being a nuisance. And it was sort of getting to a point that it was starting to keep us up. It was waking us up in the night, and then the noises were just continuing and keeping us in that tired state. And I'd kind of had enough and I wanted some answers, so I sat down to do an EVP session, which was a little bit of a bust. Now I did get a couple of scratching sounds, which, while interesting, I clearly, I didn't make those sounds myself. The recorder was on the step at one point. They were interesting, but just not, there weren't responses. There was nothing I could take from that would help me figure out what was going on. I do always wonder whether that's the sound of a spirit trying to communicate, trying to speak out, but just not having the energy to do it clearly, or if it is just something fiddling with the recorder. At one point it sounded like a male voice shouting no, like it was quite distant, a little bit vague, and it could have been anything. I mean, looking back now, it could have been outside and I just didn't notice it at the time. So I put that in there as what I think it said, but all in all, I'd say the EVP session was relatively inconclusive. Interesting, but just not what I was hoping to get out of it. And so the activity continued, and it continued to ramp up to the point that it had ran all night and actually bled into the day a little bit, which pretty much sort of brings us to where we left off. The activity had started happening during the day, and it wasn't just noises. I'd started to notice things like out of place. When I'd get back from work, something just wouldn't be where we'd left it, and I was convinced that there was stuff happening then as well. So I set all the cameras up. On a night, on a morning, I'd then take the cards out, offload them onto the computer, delete it all, put them back in, and record during the day as well, which seems brilliant. You'd think at this point it's so active, I'd just be catching paranormal activity left, right, and centre, but it just didn't work out that way. I filmed during the day for, say, I think about 3 or 4 weeks of like day night cycle, and I just didn't catch much. Honestly, it was mostly just noise. I did catch a couple of bits quite early on. One was my wallet falling off of the living room pull-out table that we have, and the second one was the kitchen door swinging by itself with a little pint glass on the sofa just sort of rocking in place. But that was about it. Honestly, it was just noises, and even those, after a couple of weeks, just fizzled to nothing. I noticed it at the time, like where I'd come home and I'd noticed things before, it just stopped. It just went quiet. And so looking back, I can probably conclude that maybe it had just bled into the day a little bit. I'd been putting up cameras, I'd been asking them questions with like the EVPs and stuff. Maybe I'd just fed them enough attention and enough energy that they were able to do a few things during the day, but not like indefinitely. I hadn't amped them up so much that they could just do whatever they want constantly. They had enough energy to do some stuff, and then that fizzled out, and they sort of went back to just being active during the night when they had more energy naturally. I don't know. It, again, sort of retrospectively looking back at it, I have no idea really. It just went quiet. But this did sort of lead me into the realization that there were two glaring issues becoming apparent with filming all day and all night. And that was, one, wear and tear on the cameras. Cameras do have a lifespan. I mean, there's moving parts, there's electronic components. They can burn out. Like, I'm running them more or less 24/7. I'm asking a lot. I mean, if you look up any kind of like DSLR now and you look up the shutter, like the sensors and stuff, they have a shutter count lifespan. They're expected maybe like 150,000 shutter activations, and then you're lucky if you go past that. That's what they expect out of it. They definitely can live past that, but that is a thing. Like, things can break and overheat, and this happened to me. I had a Canon XF100, which is like the bigger brother to the Canon XA10 that I used for most of my sort of nightly investigation stuff. And I got it because it's like a broadcast quality camera, and I appreciate things have changed, but at the time it was a good camera, and it happened to have night vision. So I got very excited, and I'd had to buy it pre-owned because it was expensive at the time, which meant it came with some usage already on there. And then I started asking it to film all night, all day. The only reprieve being if I decided to just not film a certain room that night, or the few hours while I was offloading footage and getting ready for work and things like that. It eventually just overheated and stopped working, and I did consider getting it fixed, but by the time you'd paid for all that, sent it off and done all that, you might as well have just bought another pre-owned one, and that was still beyond budget. So I just sort of left it and just accepted that I wouldn't be able to film the whole house all of the time. But the second one, beyond just wear and tear, is where on earth was I planning to keep all of this footage? An entire shoot, say you do film 10 hours on a night, takes up so much space. And then I was doing that again for the day, and I'm doing that for 2 or 3 rooms at a time. That footage was mounting up fast, and I did not have enough hard drives to store it all. I have a lot. I have a stack of hard drives that I keep some, like a lot of the archive footage and like my old YouTube videos and things like that, but not enough for the better part of a year. At best, I've maybe done like 3 or 4 months. Like, I've fallen behind on my night shoots before, and then I've had to catch up, and I'd either just scrap a load, or I'd just binge, like review it until I was caught up and I could clear the hard drives. So I'd never really had to do the better part of a year before. And so this was slowly becoming a problem, and I realised this, and I decided then that all day and all night just wasn't working. I'm just going to stick to the night shoots. So eventually, even the night shoots were going to become a problem. Like, wear and tear hadn't gone away. That was still going to become an issue later down the line. I'm still running them 8 to 10 hours a night. Yeah, they got to cool down during the day, but they still have a lifespan, and it was eventually going to reach that point. But the biggest one, and the thing that was sort of chasing me very fast, was the storage issue. And so I needed to come up with a solution that would allow me to film for as long as possible. And that solution was to sort of cross-reference the diary I'd been keeping of the activity with the video footage. So if, for example, this week had been particularly active, like lots of noises, lots of things I'd noticed out of place, that day was quiet, oh, it could be worth keeping that might have something. But if the entire week had been quiet, maybe just get rid of the lot. Just hard decision, get rid of it. And then on an ongoing basis, I would know if I'd woke up hearing things, I could just not bother offloading the footage, or if I hadn't noticed anything that night, again, just get rid of it. And it's awful, and like honestly, the thing I think that bothers me most, and pardon the pun, the thing that haunts me the most, is the idea that there could have been something that I deleted just because it was quiet. Doesn't necessarily mean that nothing happened. Like I just might not have heard the noises. I might not have noticed the thing out of place, or maybe it moved so quietly and so imperceptibly that there was no noise to accompany it. It just wasn't that noticeable. And I think the worst one of all would be the idea that there may have been like an apparition, some kind of manifestation of the spirit that they mustered the energy to show themselves, and then I've gone and deleted it. I needed a solution at the time, and it was a hard decision, but it was the only way I could do it that meant I could film for longer. But there is nothing I can do to guarantee that wasn't a thing. In fact, a spirit trying to manifest would surely be using so much energy that there's actually less chance of there being noises and things moving around at the same time, because that requires so much energy. So they can't just do everything all at once. Like, something has to give, and the chances are the energy needed to muster that manifestation would probably take away from those other things. So yeah, like it was hard. It was a hard decision, but I was also so determined to keep filming for as long as possible that that's just what I had to do. And so the inevitable happened, and I finally run out of storage space, and I'd run out of videos that I wasn't reasonably sure contained something paranormal. Any videos that I could delete had already gone. And honestly, it couldn't have come at a better time for me, because I hadn't realised it at the time. In fact, Shauna was the one that pointed it out. I had become obsessed with filming again. Like it was like an addiction, even though I wasn't reviewing it, even though I was still feeling that fatigue whenever I sat down to try and do some reviewing. I couldn't get through it, but I was so afraid of missing something that I just wanted to keep filming. Like whatever it took, I just wanted to do it. And so running out of storage space was probably the best thing that could have happened, because it forced me then to sort of take the cameras down, put them away, and to just not think about it, because to think about it would have just drove me mad. Knowing that I wanted to but couldn't do anything about it would have just been the worst. So I just dismantled the lot, put them away, and tried not to think about it, to sort of give ourselves the best chance of sort of putting it all behind us. We sat down together and did a full cleansing ritual, like the, smudging, crystals, salt, meditation, everything, the works, everything that we could throw at it to get the spirits to move out of the house. We did so. And you guys know, and I've said this before, I'm not a particular religious person. I don't follow a particular religious belief, but I do believe these cleansing rituals, things like exorcisms and stuff like that, they work because of the intention behind it, not necessarily the religious connotations and their deities and whatnot. Like, I'm not a believer, but I do believe that the intention behind those spiritual cleansing, behind those exorcisms. I have a book of exorcisms from across the globe, all different cultures, that work, and it just seems crazy to me that would happen if there was one particular belief. So for me, it's all about intention. I do believe that we have the power to tell these spirits that they're not welcome. I do believe that, if the strength behind that intention is correct. Now, obviously, there are outliers. There are spirits that are strong enough to sort of protest that. But I do think, for the most part, you are in control. You are in charge of our plane. They are not welcome if you really do not want them there. And so that's kind of where we focused our intentions. Now, normally, I'm very polite. I'm happy for positive spirits that just have a message that they want to pass on to stick around. Like, I'm happy for that. I'm usually happy for that. But now was the time I just wasn't. I was sort of past it. I wanted to sort of put it behind me for a while and to not think about it. So me and Shauna got together and we did this cleansing, and it was probably the most powerful that I've ever experienced. Like, I did the smudging ritual before that got rid of that negative entity, or at least it seemed to dissipate for a long time. And things went quiet for the most part, but activity continued. It was just the negativity that went. On this occasion, we focused on everything. During the meditation, the prayers, everything, I focused on all of them, and I asked them all, told them all to leave. And I say, it was just so amazing. Like, the house just went so quiet, so quiet. Shauna actually said it was the best night's sleep she's had in a long time, and it was peaceful, like it was. But for me, and this is going to sound a little twisted, but it was almost too quiet. And I know it's weird to think, and I certainly wouldn't go rushing to tell them to come back or anything like that. But best way I can think to describe it is, I lived on a main road in my house at uni, and there were cars up and down all the time. Like, it was noisy, and people would come around and be like, "How on earth do you sleep with all that noise?" And the honest answer was, after a year of living there, I couldn't sleep without it. If I went to stay anywhere else, the quiet was almost deafening, like jarringly quiet, so much that I just couldn't relax into it. It's the same reason some people like, white noise or nature sounds during the night. It's like, it helps them relax. And I'm not saying that the noises from the paranormal were relaxing, but that normality, which it had become for me, was missing. So yes, it was peaceful, but laying there in bed, it was almost like something's missing. And as I say, I appreciate that it's weird and it's a bit twisted, but it is just how I felt. And obviously it wasn't just for me. Like, we were both struggling to sleep with it. So it was for the best. It was about getting back to normality, because that's the thing, isn't it? Like, the paranormal noises, the footsteps, the things moving around, that wasn't normal. What was experiencing at that time was, if you know what I mean. So yeah, got on with it, and it was amazing. And it wasn't perfect, don't get me wrong. We did repeat the process several times, the cleansing, the crystals, the salt, the lot, multiple times, just to sort of keep up with it. And it was so peaceful. The house went quiet as a mouse for so long, until June 2019, almost to the day that the noisy stairs happened in 2018, it started again. And After that first week, I pulled the cameras out, I just deleted some stuff and I set them up again. And so after 3 or 4 months of relative peace, this was loud. And I appreciate that in reality, it's actually not that loud, aside from the banging on the door. But after that much quiet, it really did shake us up. It was disruptive and we'd started to lose sleep again. But this time I wasn't having any of it. I jumped out straight away, got my EVP recorder out and had a session and got nothing. I got the PSB7 Spirit Box out. I thought, well, let's try a bit of a live communication. Nothing. I downloaded like Spirit Box apps, Spirit communication apps. Got nothing. I raided the App Store for anything I could find and got nothing. I even got out the Steve Huff Portal device, you know, the amp with the noise reduction and the reverb pedal. Very similar to the Spirit Box modulator that I made back in the day, hoping that would enhance communications, and I got nothing. And it was so frustrating because clearly something was there that wanted to communicate, something that wanted your attention, but they just weren't willing to do it, or they couldn't do it, and I just couldn't understand why. So I went back to the drawing board and I started having a think, and I realised that I'd not done like a meditation session for a while, like to try and enhance that communication, like the meditative conjuring that I used to do before. Now, the idea behind that, just very briefly, was to sit in a meditative state, surround yourself in light, ground yourself, and just open yourself up to your environment. And I don't necessarily mean spiritually in a way that makes you vulnerable and open to attack or anything like that. I just mean really tuning in to your environment, the kind where you're so aware of everything around you. If somebody breathed at the far end of a hall, you would know about it. You're just so focused in. And so I decided to do that, and I sat down and I really just opened myself up as much as I could and really focused in hard on the energy that I'd felt. And then I sat down with the portal and the PSB7 and had a session, and that session was amazing. Okay, so if there are any spirits present that would like to come forward and speak to me, I have this device on this desk here that can hear your voice. You can actually manipulate the sounds coming through this device to communicate. Is that something you'd like to do? I'm going to activate this device now so you can hear it and give it a try. Would you like to come forward and speak to me? Hello, my name's Michael. Would you like to tell me your name? Can you tell me who's speaking? Would you like to tell me your name? Did that say Adam? Did you say your name was Adam? Adam, would you like to tell me your full name? Has Adam left the session? Can you tell me who's speaking now then? Philippa? Hi Philippa, my name's Michael, as I said. Do you have anything you'd like to pass on? Any messages you'd like to give? Now I'm hearing a couple of different voices. Can you tell me who else is here? Who's back? Adam, have you joined the session again? How many spirits am I talking to right now? How many people are present? It has gotten really cold. 6. Did you say 6? Are Daniel and Anna here as well? Daniel, Anna, if you're here, would you guys like to say something? Like to give me some kind of sign that you're still here? Who's who? Do I hear who's this? Has somebody else joined? I didn't quite catch that. Has somebody else joined this session? Has there somebody else joined us? Okay. So, can you tell me the name of the 7th person that's joined us? Who's not? I'm not dead. Who is it you're referring to? This doesn't seem like a rude question. Do you know that you're dead? Adam, Philippa, anybody here like to tell me a little bit more about themselves? It might just help me do some research on you, potentially tell your stories properly. Afraid of what? Afraid of who? I'm getting a very bad feeling about this session, so I'm going to close it off. I would like to say off the bat that I accept no negativity at all in this house. This is a house of light, a house of positivity. If you're not here to just communicate and pass on your messages, you are not welcome. Any positive spirits still present? Would you like to come forward and speak to me? Okay, you've made your intentions very clear. I'm going to be closing this session now. I don't accept your negativity. In fact, you are not welcome in this house at all. I'm telling you right now to leave. This is my house and you are not welcome. To the other spirits that were joining in and were communicating, passing on some sort of messages, I can only apologise. If you can help at all in ridding the house of this negative presence, the one that doesn't seem to want to communicate, then that would be greatly appreciated, and maybe we can get back to having these sessions again soon. So before I close this device off completely, are there any messages you would like to pass on? Anything you'd like to say? Thank you very much. I'm going to close this session now, and hopefully we'll get to do this again in the near future. Thank you. Yeah, didn't like that. Something about that just felt wrong. And so the key takeaways for me from this session were that, one, meditation works. Like, if you've never tried it, I mean, I would recommend it anyway for most people. Like, spiritually and mentally, it really does help a lot. But in situations like this, when you really need to sort of tune into your environment and focusing on the spirits, I just want to know if anybody else does it and what kind of success you've had with it, because it's always worked really well for me. You could argue in this case that it maybe worked a little too well. Like, I had an idea of a spirit that I wanted to speak to, the one that had been making the noise, and that's where I'd sort of focus my intentions during my meditation. But then during this session, they said that there were 6 of them, which, don't get me wrong, it could have just been the collective of 6 that were making all the noise to begin with. It could have been, or potentially that I've like opened myself up and brought in 6 spirits instead of the one that I was intending to. I don't know. There were 2 spirits in particular that came forward and spoke to me that I was aware of, and that was Adam and Philippa. They were very responsive, but then sort of like halfway through the session, things sort of changed. The atmosphere, the air just got really close and just uncomfortable. And I think the best way I can think to describe it is like if you've ever been like in a really, maybe like a small warm room, and you know there's multiple people, like it's a bit humid, it's a bit close and a bit almost like claustrophobic. It kind of felt like that, like the air had just left the room and it was just like really close. But instead of being really hot, obviously it was cold. Like the heat had just been drawn out of the room with the air. Sounds dramatic. It did come on slowly, but alongside that, you had the level of responses that were coming through seemed to drop. Like I just weren't getting the answers that I was getting at the beginning. Spirits were saying, "Who's this? Who's this now? Like who's that?" At one point, when questioning about it, the words "very nasty" came through. Now, it doesn't take a genius in my mind to sort of put those things together and realise that something had entered this session that was coming with negative energy. Like there was something not quite right there. In fact, at one point, the number 7 came through the spirit box, where at the beginning it had said 6. So you know what I mean? Like clearly, there's one more has joined the session, and it's not coming with good intention. So I sat down and I sort of laid down the law. I was like, "You're not welcome if you're not here to genuinely pass on messages. I don't welcome your negativity, House of Light, etc." To which they replied, "Up yours." I mean, I was almost speechless. I couldn't believe it. Like I'd started this session because these spirits wanted to communicate. Like something was getting my attention on, like clearly wanted that attention, wanted something. And so I was trying with genuine intention to try and help. And this was the response and the way I was being treated for it. So I was like, absolutely not. So I closed the session off. I apologized to the spirits that were present and were communicating. And I sat down later and did a full cleansing session. So I sat in my meditation as I did before, surround myself in light. And I really focused in on that negative energy that I was feeling. Like I really zoned in on it, and I put everything I had into telling them, specifically them, to leave, because I didn't really want to kick the other spirits out, the ones that were communicating and had messages to pass on. I wasn't in a rush. Like that was exciting. I'd not felt that in so long, sitting down and actually getting responses and feeling like I was helping them. It was just amazing. And so I didn't really want that to end. I wanted to be able to go back and communicate with them. It was just that negative energy that I wanted out. So that's where I focused my intentions, and I did the cleansing, and it seemed to work, to be fair. Like the house, it did quieten down a little, but that I just didn't feel that negative energy like for a while. But that pretty much brings us on to the end of this video. And now I would go on to get more hard drives, so the night shoots would eventually pick up. And I would go on to do more communication sessions, EVP sessions, spirit box with them. Adam in particular did come through a lot, and I learned a lot from him. But as I say, I'm going to save those for the next video. So thank you all so much for watching. And as always, I'll post any and all activity as and when I get it.